What's going on? Danny Crew, it's Danny Drew here, and we are back for another day of Catan. I was sent a video to me this morning in regards to a compilation that a top Norwegian Catan player put together, essentially breaking down some of the verbal strategies that I use for the USA Nationals. So I figured we don't do a lot of reaction videos. Let's react to this, see what nuggets Alec found here, and I don't know. I'm excited. I don't get many people to analyze my game in this way, so it'd be kind of cool to kind of see what he's found and also share some of those insights with you. That's also the title of the video, so I will include the link to the video in the description as well. Let's watch it and let's see what we learn.
What did Drew Elliott say to win the US Nationals in Catan? What psychological tricks did he use? I will break it down.
Psychological
In this
tricks.
video, these timestamps will refer to the timestamps of Catan's YouTube video, Catan US Nationals Championship 2024. Link to the video.
What an
is in the
amazing day.
description. First, we are going to look at the things Drew says to appear as the one with the weakest position and the most difficult starting point. And one of the first things he says is, technically, I'll be the only player on 3 numbers, right? Now, being on 3 numbers is known to be risky, as you're very dependent on those exact numbers rolling. And when they do roll, you are more likely to 7 out, as you will receive a lot of cards at the same time. He also points this out later in the game when Sonny asks if anyone is looking for sheep. Drew then says this.
Anyone looking for sheep?
No. Look for cards, just general.
Understood.
Feast or famine, I guess.
Anyone looking for wood?
So again, he's highlighting his difficult position, this time in a funny way. He masters to basically complain about it, but he keeps the mood light at the same time.
By the way, like, I wasn't thrilled about my starting position. I knew it was playable, but I knew I had a ton of work to do. So all those reactions, you know, me kind of like disengaging just a little bit, honestly, it was genuine. I mean, I do try to infuse a lot of humor to not be overly complainy, but yeah, I had feast or famine, and I kind of wanted the board to know that. And sure, I think generally people look at feast or famine as like less viable. So that can definitely help me in the early stages to try to get a little bit of momentum.
Now in the placement phase, we hear him say, the way this is playing out, it's getting worse and worse for me. And when he places his second settlement, he says this.
All right, let's just go for it. Let's just have fun. Let's just have fun.
In this, he basically says, I don't have a strong setup, but let's just try to make it work.
Let's just have fun.
And in the first trade, he tries to use this as a benefit for him to get trades. In this example, Joshua wants wood. Sonny and Drew offers the same deal, but Drew says, I think I'm in a little bit of a more difficult spot here. And Drew actually ends up getting that trade with Joshua. Now we're going to look at how Drew is constantly...
You know, don't be afraid to leverage your position early on. Like, be willing to call out positions that are a little bit stronger, that have a little bit more momentum or potential. Yeah, again, this is all genuine. I'm not using this, even though the title says psychological trick. I'm not trying to like manipulate the board because, you know, I'm not lying. Like, I'm being genuine. And also, like, that's a big part of my verbal game, is because I'm just kind of speaking from the heart. I don't have to sit here and try to convolute everything I say. Like, everything I'm saying here is intuitive, at least to me. But yeah, this is good so far.
looking for value. In this first example, Drew gets a wheat for ore trade with Sonny and makes sure that he puts the robber on the 6 ore next time to block Joshua and Xiao.
I do this all the time.
And the reason he gets this trade is because he says this.
I prefer the 1-for-1.
Next time you flip a knight, you just put it on the 6, call it a day, and I'll do that trade.
If you
I think that's more than fair. This is my only value card right now.
Is wheat? He has
Correct.
an 854. Yeah, he's gonna make.
I have no ore, no brick. I'm also blocked.
Okay.
Here he uses his abundance of wheat as a bargaining chip, framing the trade as advantageous for Sonny, since the wheat is not so accessible for him and the other players. In a later trade, Drew capitalizes on his current position on the board by saying, I need another card or something, especially being solo blocked in this situation. So he's basically eliciting sympathy from the other players. And in the next sequence,
Yeah, so this is like people that are really good at trading. This is just like an inherent part of playing like a high level Catan game is always looking for value. Maybe you're getting a non-block with the deal. Maybe you're getting a second card. Maybe you're getting a future card. You're getting a non-steal. Maybe you're getting access to a port for port play and port usage. I find players don't do this enough, and it's just something that because I've played the game for so long and I've played it at such a high level, I just do it all the time. And with the right tonality and the right way that you frame things, you can normally get them through, especially if your position doesn't seem as good at the start. People will generally make exceptions just to kind of like keep the game moving. So yeah, I love this.
we see him use some of the same tricks to get a good trade with Sonny. I'm gonna play the clip, so listen closely to the things he says.
Is there any wheat out there?
Yes.
I just don't think
me
you
up,
should
man.
be deving and have 2 roads for.
What are you
2 points.
trading here? I literally just got my first one in the last 3 war bets. So
No, you're still in a good spot. I'm willing to do something.
I'm at 3. They're at what, 5?
Want to do a 2 for 2?
I mean, he has so many cards.
I think a 2 for 1 is fair here. Like I'm literally not even actionable.
So here he leverages 3 key points to strengthen his case in the trade. Number 1, his lack of cards. Number 2, that he is behind. And number 3, that he is not actionable. So Drew just constantly say things that make the other players give him more cards. Meanwhile, before this trade even goes through, the other player claims Sonny is lying about what he's going to do with his hand after the trade. But Drew, on the other hand, says this.
What is it then? Is it road settlement?
No, I'm just buying a dev.
Then
You have a lot of cards for a single dev.
You have to secure a bunch of times. It comes
That's a
really
good
good.
point.
I'm not lying. Like,
no. I believe you. That's why I'm
read
offering
through
the
some
week.
suspicious.
I would like to try to keep my trade relationships between you guys, but like I'm literally
Did
struggling.
you have
here.
free wheat? Like, do you want?
So the other players accuse Sonny of lying, but Drew says he believes him. This highlights Drew's strategy of using kindness and a sense of togetherness in his approach to the game. By showing solidarity with Sonny, he positions himself as an ally. This psychological tactic is quite interesting, because people are generally more inclined to trade with someone who's friendly. And of course, Drew knows this. And this
is actually pretty big. This is pretty big because, you know, again, like I'm not sitting there trying to sculpt out the perfect response every time I'm at a table. But yeah, it's like if they're applying this kind of pressure that, hey, you're being dishonest or lying, and then I'm sitting there saying, no, I believe you, I want to work with you. Like these things make a big difference socially. And I feel like just players miss it. So yeah, like, again, that was just an intuitive response from me to Sonny to say, no, I believe you. Like, I want to work with you. But I know those verbals definitely help in terms of like getting things to happen. So interesting observation. Like so far, like he's picking out some really good things.
actually helps Drew to get a 2-for-4 deal with Sonny, which is just great for Drew. However, it gives Sonny a double pop. And that's why Drew just throws in the comment, "You're not gonna block me, right?" This is a way for Drew to basically get a non-block with this deal without initially asking for it as a part of the trade. He knows that Sonny will buy 2 devs and most likely get knights. So this is also another way to get value for his cards, but this time an intangible value.
Yeah, by the way, like it wasn't explicitly said this you will give me a non-block, but what would happen in that situation is if he flipped a knight, I would be like, by the way, you mentioned you wouldn't block me when we did that deal. So I would definitely apply some positive pressure down the road if he did flip a knight in those situations. Just so happened, I don't think he pulled knights there. But yeah, just again, that's a great example of just adding and stacking more value in the conversation in the deal, that obviously kind of gives you a little bit more leeway to work.
Now, let's look at how Drew incorporates sympathy, friendliness, and a sense of togetherness in his approach to the game. We already saw an example of this, but here comes some more. Let's start with togetherness. He's heard saying, I do think we can work together here. I'm in the similar boat. And I'm trusting him here. And lastly, what do you need here, Sonny? We're both at 3 cards, so I can shift some wheat your way if that helps you at all. In these examples, Drew uses inclusive language that fosters a sense of partnership. These shared experiences can make the other players more aligned with Drew and more open to listening to him, as well as trading and dealing with him. Drew actually says something like, we're in the same boat 3 times during the game. So let's look at the 2 last times he says this.
I like that phrase, I guess.
I'm pretty stacked. No, what they were.
No, I'm not doing 2 to 1. Sir.
No, not 2 to 1. Cards. No, I understand. We're at the same place there. I'll do the wood 4 if you want.
I'm the threat
Like,
here.
it's definitely not Josh.
I'm 7. Transparent 7.
Completely agree. And
And the 6 is not even a city roll.
Josh, we're in the same boat.
You couldn't play 9.
We're in the same.
So something funny here. Maybe you guys could like I communicate a lot with my hands. And I do think that says something, generally like having your hands open. Sometimes when you're speaking, I bring them close to myself when I'm saying something to emphasize, and I try not to ever point, but like sometimes I'll point with my hand like this. So I find like kind of finding a flow of expressing yourself with your hands also matters too, right? Like the table's kind of like everyone's in close proximity to each other. Just a fun little thing that, I've noticed watching some of the gameplays, but yeah, we're all in the same boat.
Same boat.
And you.
In this next example, Sonny is placing the robber, and Shao says 2 8s wins for Drew, suggesting that Sonny should block him. Let's see how Drew counters this assertion.
6-6, I do not win.
It doesn't matter.
8
It's 8.
wins.
No,
Yes.
I'm letting you know.
You are on 8 points.
Because he would get 5 cards with an 8.
I'm letting you know that's not the case. I've been honest with
I'm
you.
the only one
You've
on
been
that
honest
8.
with me.
Here, Drew uses a few psychological tricks to create a sense of trust and togetherness with Shao. By stating that both have been honest with each other, Drew reinforces a bond of trust. This creates an emotional connection that makes Shao and also the other players more likely to believe him. In addition, Drew uses a calm and confident tone to sound more trustworthy. This actually leads to Sonny blocking the 2 other players and not Drew. Now, let's take a look at how Drew shows sympathy to the other players. In this first example, Sonny plays a Monopoly. Now, let's see how Joshua reacts to that.
This was a big turn.
I don't believe anything he says anymore, so
That's fair.
for all I know, it's another Monopoly in there.
Or the 4.
I'm hitting 6 just because I don't like being lied to.
I mean, he might just flip a knight for the win.
So Joshua says, I don't believe in anything he says anymore, and blocks Sonny's 6 and says, it's the 6 because I don't like being lied to. Drew, on the other hand, says this.
I mean,
In fact, I've been stuck.
I did believe you when you said that, what you had. So that's kind of like,
yeah, I had to say it was a point.
I understand. Well, I'd say the mono's worth the point at least, so fair enough.
Yeah.
So Drew says he believed him. He says that he understands that he had to lie and that it was fair to say that the Monopoly was a VP. This shows the different approaches Josh and Drew take. While Joshua reacts with frustration after being lied to, Drew responds with sympathy and understanding. And then we have some examples.
It's also fair to say that mono didn't even affect me at all because he called brick and I had 0 brick in my hand. So, I can maybe understand Josh's frustration more. Like, I was happy, right? Like, he could have monoed my wheat. He didn't do it. But yeah, it's a subtle thing, right? Where people on some level want to be understood and validated. And it's not like you can't change anything after he pulls the mono and plays it. So it's like I'd rather try to build some sense of solidarity and just say like, I understand why you said it. You know, it is what it is. Fair enough. You know, it's tough. It's tough to keep a cool head sometimes and not bring frustration in. But if you can use a little bit more empathetic language, it does go a long way. So again, I'm not like convoluted and trying to do these lines. Like I'm like sculpting them in my mind. It's an intuitive response for me at this point. But cool to kind of see it pointed out.
Examples of Drew being friendly. One time, he interrupts the other guys talking and says, "It's Joshua's turn." And he does it again, another time, and says, "It's Xiao's turn, so let him play his turn." By saying this, he allows both Joshua and Xiao the space to think and complete their turns without interruption, something they likely appreciate. Another example is how he reacts when his offer is declined by Sonny. Drew says, "We can do 1-for-1 if it makes sense," to Sonny. To which Sonny replies, "It doesn't, sorry." And Drew answers, No, you don't have to apologize about that." So Drew is generally just being nice. In addition, you generally see Drew smiling a lot, making jokes, and having fun. Drew's behavior diffuses tension and makes himself more likable, possibly making other players less likely to target him or view him as a threat. Lastly, we're going
Interesting note there. I actually like do this quite a bit in terms of when people say sorry to me. I never feel anyone owes me an apology, very rarely. So I always like, for the longest time, I've always said like, yeah, you don't have to apologize to me. Like you don't owe me anything. But yeah, especially in that situation, I think for some people it's just reflexive to say sorry. And I just don't operate that way. So yeah, just kind of funny it showed up in the USA National Finals.
We're going to look at how Drew encourages the other players in different ways. In the end game, there's a chance that Sonny can win the game by taking road. And the board asks Xiao to extend with 1 road. Meanwhile, Xiao really wants to pop and is thinking about what to do. Let's see what he does and what Drew says.
Not in your interest.
The safest bet is to take the roads.
So the situation real quick is that Xiao can extend road by 1, which locks road for the rest of the game. Because the problem is if Sonny connects or builds all the way around this area here, he can go to 9 roads because Xiao's at 8 currently. So he can either extend by 1 and pass, or he can buy a development card. So we're telling him, hey, you should extend. You should extend. It's like, it's the best for your play. You should extend. And then that's kind of where the conversation's at right now.
I would like you to extend.
Logically.
Do whatever you think is best, Xiao.
By def.
Yeah. Could be 9 here.
So Drew says, "Do whatever you think is best, Xiao," encouraging him to follow his guts. Xiao follows up with buying the dev immediately, which ended up costing him the game actually. It's a very subtle thing, and it's limited how much it affects the game, but Drew is often heard throwing out comments to encourage the other players in a way. Let's look at another example of this. In this example, Xiao is moving the robber and he's deciding between Sonny's 6 or Drew's 4. Let's see how Drew handles the situation.
If you want, but the 6 is just a free card, right? Well, yeah, block the 4 if you want. Trust yourself.
6 is good though.
It's a lot of cards for him.
Am I the...
Bro, I got solo blocked at 3 points. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So again, we see Drew encouraging other players. He says, block the 4 if you want. Trust yourself. Which is quite interesting because by saying this, he also communicates that he doesn't really care that much, which hints that the block doesn't really hurt Drew that much, even if it does. As we see, Xiao ends up blocking Sonny. Because when you think about it, you're more inclined to block the guy who says, "Don't block me," than the guy who basically says, "Just go ahead and block it. Trust yourself." So this is another subtle detail, but it at least shows how Drew uses some psychological tricks to manage these situations.
Now to sum up, we can obviously see that Drew is very good at deciding when and how to express ideas that work to his advantage. Not to mention the way he frames what he's saying and the tone he uses. While he may consciously make these choices at times, it often seems to be instinctive for him. This ability is a valuable skill that he's developed through a lot of experience, and it may have been the key factor that led him to win the game.
Cool. Yeah. I really like, just going back real quick, I really like this encouraging
Shows
piece.
how Drew used.
Like, I actually do this a lot. And it's just a subtle thing, right? Like, being encouraging, maybe just offering a little bit of suggestion can go a long way. Now, I don't know, like, you know, with these specific situations with Shao, when I said do what you think is best and he buys the dev immediately, or I say block the 4 if you want, trust yourself, and he blocks the 6. I don't know how much of anything I said actually made the difference there, but I think there's something about putting the right intention, and people can feel it, people can sense it. So yeah, I thought this was a great video in terms of like breaking down some of the dimensions of some of my verbal game. And it is true, like I don't, this is all very intuitive to me, right? It's part of my character. It's part of like just the way I've kind of developed as a human being. Like, I don't sit here and try to sculpt out all these perfect lines. It just comes out, which I think is also one of the reasons why people do trust me and people do find it believable, because it's like, that's just me being me. So Alex, awesome video. I'm going to leave a link in the description, so if people want to go and check out this video themselves. Yeah, hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you got some value out of that. And also, if you guys like some of these React videos, we can do a little bit more where I'm going and looking at different Catan videos and different Catan strategy videos and breaking those down. It's fun. I like to do something a little bit different, and this is definitely a little bit of a different pace. So, all right, hopefully you enjoyed that. If you haven't liked, if you haven't subscribed, click down below. We're going to keep doing content. Have a good time while doing it. Thank you so much, crew. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you soon. Peace!